Welcome to COhatch Polk Stables here in Indianapolis, Indiana. 1533 Lewis Street is alive and well today. And with our first annual Polk Podcast Studio premiere, we are blessed to have Gina Fears with us today, a matriarch in the Martindale-Brightwood neighborhood in which we are situated. And we are looking forward to hearing from her about her own personal journey in Martindale-Brightwood and what her hopes and aspirations are for the neighborhood in the Polk Stables and then beyond Polk Stables throughout the neighborhood and throughout Indianapolis. Good afternoon. My name is Greg Enas. Polk Stables is a building that I have an interest in along with my partner, Sergeant George, and our COhatch partners. We're delighted to be working with them to bring this building to life, and I do hope that you can come by and visit us sometime. But enough of that. I'd like to introduce my co-host this afternoon, Mr. Aaron Story. Aaron, give us a little bit of your background.
Thanks, sir. Work with Elevate Indianapolis, get to serve students that live in about 20 different zip codes of the city, including students that are rich in the history of this neighborhood as well. Glad to do it. Get to work with kids, a lot of different ways, foster parent, basketball coach, just friend and neighbor. Don't live too far from here myself. But good to meet new people. Matriarch. Were you ready for that?
Not at all.
I had no idea. Don, who I met and then got to know Greg years ago, but I had no idea Greg was going to come right out the gate with new words.
Yes, no, I've been known as a Greg Triarch, but that's not as great as a Matriarch. And Gina, it is a blessing to have you here. Aaron and I look forward to hearing your story, really. We're very interested. We've heard so much about you and your life and work from Joanna Taft and others here. And so we just like to sort of hear from you most of this time. I'm not going to be doing a lot of talking, but just to start, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing now, but then we want to go back and sort of find out what shaped and formed you to bring you to this point now, and what's your heart for the future and vision for the future here, and how can we help you in that way too?
Amazing.
Thank you. That sounds good?
Cool.
Okay.
That sounds good.
Take it away, Gina.
So I'm Gina Fears. I'm always told that is an interesting last name, but it just does remind me truly of just a reverence and a respect that should be given just to life and the opportunity to be living and be a part of something. Martindale-Brightwood is a very amazing community. I'm a matriarch because I'm over 60. So
what does that make me?
I know.
I'm well over 60.
A great matriarch.
A great
matriarch.
Yeah. Just celebrated my 65th birthday this year.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you so much. I wasn't looking for you asking about was I ready for the matriarch? Absolutely not, because I was used to in this community looking for individuals to be acknowledged in that way. And so I kind of just got an email one day that simply said from Joanna, can we use this picture? I guess. I don't know what you're doing, but okay. And I literally absolutely adore and have a great deal of respect and honor being able to work with her, learn from her. It is truly amazing. And yes, I was born very close to this community, like at 36 in Ralston. So it's kind of a stomping ground that I know. But it's also been a community. Also in my first marriage, my husband's family was from so there's a Martindale and a Brightwood that come together to form one community. And I was kind of born on the Martindale side, but then at that point with the marriage and getting with that family, began to learn the Brightwood side.
That's right. So you're talking. I have a map here in front of Gina. You're at 30. You were born in 36 in Ralston. That was
36 in Ralston.
Yeah, and then Brightwood's on the east side of the neighborhood.
And that used to be known. So the 36 in Ralston would have been down the hill, and the Brightwood would have been up the hill.
Okay.
Brightwood has its name from being the Brightwood.
Oh.
So the brighter part, and that's actually where the railroad industry started here. That was its home base.
Didn't know
and
that.
So those down the hill in the Martindale area, which is those other three neighborhoods that you're looking at, the hillside, Oak Hill, and Ralston Hovey, those were often individuals that worked for those that lived in the Brightwood or as porters on the railroad. And so, it's an amazing, amazing, rich history of these two communities coming together. But then there was finally a flight from up the hill from Brightwood as the rail was actually moving to Beech Grove, and so that became kind of a very blighted community. I remember
From Brightwood to Blightwood.
yes,
Oh,
and I remember my brother-in-law had just been coming out of the police academy and was working this area, and Brightwood was a place that we were just told, you do not go over there. It's just one of those places.
really?
Now we just go up and down because it's amazing, the resiliency of the individuals that have been here, the people that have been here, the residents that have been here is wonderful. The history is rich. Those matriarchs are not matriarchs just because they're over 60. They're matriarchs because they have contributed to that history, to that resiliency, to that redevelopment over and over. This is a very Renaissance community that has recreated itself so many times.
I love that. So place us in your journey in this neighborhood. Where
Okay.
you grew up at 36 in Ralston. Where did you go to school? Elementary, middle school, high school, so that we can sort of get a feel for the life of the community for a child growing up here.
So I wasn't always in this community. However, the first home that I remember in the community was at 33rd in Ralston.
Okay.
And then we moved a few blocks north that would put us at 36 in Ralston. 3601 Ralston was the address.
Okay.
That was an amazing, fun time. My mom was a beautician, so she had a business. My mom has always been a businesswoman, so she had her own business in the basement of the home. My brother and I were being taught at that point. So I have an older brother who is 4 years older than me. We were being taught at that point to have our own businesses. So we had the Pepsi truck come every week, and we sold soda. Not only to her customers, but people would come to our door. And we would sell them soda. I am one of 7 natural-born siblings in my family, and so my brother and I were the oldest of those. We lived there, and as we moved to the 36 in Ralston address, my mom was remarried at that point in time, and she married a gentleman who was a police officer and a minister.
Oh.
And so that it was not unusual for us to have the paddy wagon, or it was a motorcycle cop as well, sitting out front in the house. That's just how we grew up.
So good.
We were here on this side of town. My first school was School 69, which is right at 34th and Joyce Kilmer.
Okay,
Exactly.
Still operating.
It's actually Joyce Kilmer is literally coming down.
About to.
No.
They'll
It's
flip
coming
it.
down.
IPS is shutting Kilmer down.
Yes.
Okay.
But that was my very first school. That I cried because I did not want to go. My mom always tells the story that I came home that first day and said I didn't have to go back anymore because I'd learned everything that day. So not true. But that was the first school that I attended. I was there for a couple of years. When I was 7, there was a major tragedy in our family because that amazing father that we had, who by that time was not just a minister, was a pastor of a church and had literally built a church. And I have laid bricks in a building for a church, was killed in a car accident.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And so our family, and so I have siblings behind me. But at that time, we were there for a little bit longer on this side of town. But I just remember that part of my dreams were around public safety. I mean, I enjoyed that. That kind of thing. I thought the cop thing was fun even back then. And I thought a lot about working at the juvenile center, which is right, as we say, up the hill in Brightwood. So it was at the top of the hill. And I thought a lot about that. And so that kind of carried with me. But we moved to the west side then. And I ended up my schooling was done at a couple of public schools on that side of town. My mother married again, and we were able to go I had spent 1 year at Heritage Christian School, but I finished my education at Heritage Christian School.
So you're a Heritage Christian High School graduate.
I am almost a Heritage Christian High School graduate.
Okay.
So I was there into my junior year.
Okay.
And then I made some personal choices, which meant I had to leave. But out of that, I have this amazing and beautiful and intelligent young daughter who is 48 years old now.
Wow.
Yes.
I'm sure she's glad you put her age out there.
That's right. That's young.
You know,
that makes me feel very old.
Yeah,
but-
she's okay.
Yeah.
Well, she's on the other side of the
Does
country.
she live here in town?
She's
Oh,
on the other side of
okay.
the country.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
probably not hearing this.
Okay.
She's doing nursing in Arizona.
And are you a grandmother too?
I'm a grandmother and a great-grandmother.
Okay.
I know life is cool, isn't it?
Wow.
Yeah.
Not only you're a great-triarch, but you're a great-grandmother. I mean, no
know.
wonder you're so great.
I know. That's what I am is great? Well,
you
I
are.
know I'm graced. How about that?
Yes.
Um,
Amen.
The journey that really leads me back here is quite interesting because I've done a lot of different things, and I really was on a pathway of like, let's just get into some business thing and make some money. Because remember, early on,
your
teaching
mom
me
and
how
Pepsi.
to have a business, and
Right.
my mom did open. She always was the beautician, but then at the same time, we went into the daycare business as a family, and that helped so much with 7 children's education. And so we did that. A couple of twists and turns in life, some of my own traumas, but being able to bounce back and having that faith foundation, having that wonderful family behind me to support me and carry me through. And so I ended up working for the mayor's office here during the Ballard administration. I jumped a few years, but I ended up doing some work with the Ballard administration. I had worked in the behavioral health and substance use treatment arena, and so working in reentry, and so from the mayor's office, Rhiannon and I were there together building out that first office of reentry. After that was done, I went and did a couple of years of full-time children's ministry and realized that children have parents and they have issues, and so I'm back to doing that thing again.
Wow.
But one of my church members let me know that Martindale-Brightwood was looking for a community builder for their quality of life plan.
Okay. And that brings you full circle
brought
back
me
to the
all the
neighborhood.
way
That is
back
a
around.
beautiful story,
It was
Gina.
so cool.
Yeah.
I walked in a room for a panel interview, and all I did was hug people because I already knew everybody.
Good.
We'd worked in community. So, that got me back
Yeah.
here.
That's so good. Aaron,
Love that.
man, what are you picking up on with Gina?
I mean, first, thank you for just obviously sharing your so transparently, kind of big building blocks of your life.
Yeah.
Think about kind of camping on the present and just what have you been able to do, obviously, the entrepreneurial journey as a kid, but more specifically in your community development work and that heart for the city and this neighborhood or this area now. What have you been able to do this season or dreaming about in this season, cultivating, that you feel like goes back to core memories, core experiences for you over the decades? Different neighborhood, different times, different city, different in a lot of ways. But how does your story inform your work today that you're most passionate about?
I think first and foremost is that whole faith foundation piece.
Okay,
So,
yes.
a lot of people look at quality of life plan, and they're looking at the pieces in the plan and the different priorities in the plan, the data that we need to collect. I look at the people, and what I know without a doubt. Matter of fact, one of my other daughters gave me this phrase: "We do heart work." And so when I look at this community and look at some of the things that have happened here, the highway coming through and splitting families up in this community, the blight that happened when the railroad moved out to satisfy, what was someone's wants or hopes or needs, maybe even a need, but desires, and then just left the rest of the community this way. And those are traumas. And so a lot of my work today couples with also the other pieces of work that I get to do in the behavioral health field and training individuals to be certified to go and work with people's hearts, with their feelings. Always been a builder. I had a dad that built a church, built an entire church. I had a mom who was always building a business. They were always caring for people. Shepherding is a real thing when we talk about people. Shepherding doesn't mean that I give you everything, but there's enabling in a sense of what can I do to support you to help you move from this space that may be a piece, there may be a piece of trauma there, but to let you know that you don't have to stay in that trauma and that it can move forward. And when I stepped into this community, these people such as Taisha that was here and Barato, who is the president of Edna Martin now, and
Your friends.
I just saw Miss Ivy walk by. These individuals were here, and they were working very hard to not let those feelings that go along with those type of traumas overtake the individuals and just give up.
Right.
They worked and they worked. And so I stepped into a space where that was already happening with some knowledge from the other work that I've been able to do around helping people to rebuild their lives because of addictions or mental health issues, helping people to rebuild their lives because of crimes that have been done and time that they'd had to spend away and come back to a community and reenter a community. And for me, it was the same thing.
Wow.
And so I just began to work with individuals, asking them, one of the first things that I did was pick up the quality of life plans, go through the names, see what the priorities were, the goals that were already in the quality of life plan. And I had 100 one-on-one conversations with people. Because it's all of, in working with individuals and working in community and seeing community grow. What is the community? It's the people in the community. It's not the geographic guidelines, the lines that are here. It's the people in the community. What do they want? What are they looking for? How can I support them? And so we did those 101 conversations, and I start building relationships. And that's the way anything grows, is to build real relationships.
First, I love that. I just when I started seminary in 2007, the first class, just by I would just say sovereignty's sake, the first class I ended up taking, because it was the one class available that I could take that summer, it was just the way that was available, was a community analysis class. And literally the prof, who's still a mentor today, taught us how to go into a community as an outsider, to do community analysis, to understand, to learn, to listen. So taught us how to do community interviews, be able to assess the needs of a city. Before I knew what thorough community development meant, before I understood, before I was living here in the city even, that was such an instrumental. So I love, obviously, you talk about healing and shepherding and listening to the neighbors and building authentic relationships that transforms work. So how does that apply how should it apply, we'll say it this way, towards work with kids? I mean, the bulk of my life, 24/7 for years, involves students and kids, serving kids in neighborhoods and families. When you think about that, to this generation today, so the 7-year-old Gina today that lives, around the block from here, that lives in Martindale-Brightwood, not Martindale or Brightwood, but in a new community, how should that apply to her or to him, that these young kids, as you see it, so they can build a neighborhood that they would be able to tell 50 years of historical stories to, they would put down roots to?
Absolutely. Our youth engagement priority and the quality of life plan, they are doing some amazing things. Like literally they have written their own movie over the summer, and we just
I want to see it.
Premiere. We will make sure that you get, because we're going to do it. They're going to show it again. But and the movie is called The Sound of Love. To your question, The Sound of Love. When I walked away after seeing that, The Sound of Love, and what that 7-year-old needed to know, and something that I just, I remember from growing up, that, man, I'm so glad we've been able to correct that, is that listening is an art form. Hearing people talk, anybody can do that. And it sounds like Charlie Brown's teacher half the time. We don't hear all. But literally, intentionally practicing active listening and hearing what the 7-year-old is saying. I don't live in her house. I see her when she's interacting in community pieces. If it's at school, if it's some of the parties or something that we throw, if it's one of the activities, I don't see her. To know what's really going on, I have to respect her as the subject matter expert of her life. She can tell me what it looks like at home. She can tell me. But in order to be able to support her through any of that, I have to first create a space where she feels respected, even at 7 years old. No more of that children are to be seen and not heard stuff. Hear them. Hear them. Where she feels respected, where she feels safe, which is one of the first things that all human beings want to do, is to feel safe.
Right.
And then listen to her.
Right.
And then it's asking. We got to stop telling people stuff and ask them, how can I support you? How can I best support you? Even if it doesn't work for them and they get to come back, they know I'm here to support them and I'm not going anywhere. Because I supported them when it wasn't working.
So give us a feel for what Martindale-Brightwood was known for back in the day. And what's your vision for what Martindale-Brightwood must be and your desire for it to be known for a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now? And then that's my first part of the question. The second question is, a lot of folks don't know about this plan. What are the 1 or 2 pillars that you're most excited about that will drive from where it was and what it was known for back then when it was flourishing and thriving before Brightwood, and what it must be in the future? How are we going to get there? That's right.
It's like a half of a half of a half.
That's right. Yeah, which is
But he
1/8.
But when being a great triarch means you got
that's right.
You got to answer great
I
questions.
know you can do it, Gina.
So
What was Martindale-Brightwood back then? Martindale-Brightwood was Douglas Park, where I first learned to swim, and then later in my life became an actual competitive swimmer and swam for Indianapolis Swim Club. They just threw me in the water then and said it had the big green swimming pool.
I'm glad I asked that question. That's beautiful.
Martindale-Brightwood was McKinstry's Ice Cream.
Where was that located?
It was right at the corner of 30th and what we know as Andrew J. Brown, but used to be Martindale Avenue.
okay.
Right.
Martindale-Brightwood was a fresh air market that was at 30th and Keystone. And like everything was fresh. We were just talking about this before the parade. Martindale-Brightwood was the place where the guy drove his station wagon around and he had the fresh fruit and vegetables on his truck. And it was just, you could go out from your house.
Right.
The fish guy drove around. They were talking about the Omar's Bakery. I don't remember that one, but I think that's such a cool story that they were driving through and they gave kids the broken cookies.
Yes.
What happened here in this Polk Milk Company, the sanitary part of that. And then also that the Polk Milk Company decided to be one that was making change that was necessary in our community, that there were amusement parks that African Americans did not visit, but Polk Milk Company said, we'll be a part of this. And you know what? If you take your Polk Milk cap on this one day, set aside this year, you'll be able to get it into. So Martindale-Brightwood was those things. It's the many churches, the many houses of faith that are in this community. It's rooted and grounded in that from its very start. It's community where, as Joanna is now bringing that idea of porch parties, it used to be porch party all the time. I can remember sitting on a porch in Brightwood and hearing the neighbor on their guitar down the street on an electric guitar and hearing them sing. So it was a continuous porch party. That's what it was. What's the vision and the dream that I have in doing this work? First of all, that I would, as we started talking about that conduit, I would be a conduit. I would be a bridge that respects those that live in this community. I literally go to another community when I go home at night, but respects them, but brings all the gifts, the skills, and the talents that I've been blessed with to help them. If there are situations that can be fixed that I have any of those skills for, that I would do so. If there are resources that I can connect to, if there are other relationships that I built in other areas of my career and my time, that I bring those to bear and that I help them to love the place as much as I do. And so they're bringing and giving. And I've tried to do that today by bringing people here to see this. If you see this, if you feel this, you can't help but want to do something here.
Right.
That's my dream. My dream is that Martindale-Brightwood is no longer the Brightwood, but that it is a bright place, a shining place. Every part of this city touches Martindale-Brightwood. You have to pass through here almost to go any direction. So there's no forgetting that it's here, or there shouldn't be.
Right.
So what do we do to make people want to come here and be a part of, not just pass through here? And then this quality of life plan, what makes it amazing, the residents did this.
Yeah.
We supported them, but they did this themselves. I mean, they did it. They did town hall meetings. They did creators conferences. They put sticky notes on walls. They really looked around. They looked at the work they had done before, and they were proud of that. They celebrated that. We made sure that that was celebrated. And then, okay, what else do we need to do? And this is the result of that. And I'm just going to, as I always do, talk about that youth engagement piece of the plan. Out of their own traumas and their own heartaches, they looked out and said, we have to do something to help ourselves. Mental health is a big thing. We all got back from COVID. We know how it was. And so they did that, and they decided that that's something that they want to work on, whether we want to help them work on it or not. They're going to take it into their own hands and work on it. They've seen so many things in their lifetime, their friends, their neighbors, their family members. And so they advocated for adding that youth engagement that had never been a part of a quality of life plan in here. And so it exists as priority number 10 in this plan.
And youth engagement with a mental health initiative within that, or just youth engagement in general?
Youth engagement with a mental health initiative.
Okay.
And it is like their first 3-4 goals in their plan.
Yes, right.
It has something to do with mental health. And they're serious about that.
Okay. So Aaron is heading up Elevate here in Indiana, working with kids. Where are you coming from in your teaching in the schools and then your mentoring before and after school relative to youth engagement around mental health in particular? Is there anything on your heart that you've noticed in the community? And first of all, Aaron, do you have any students that you're working with? I'm sure from Martindale-Brightwood.
Oh, for sure.
Hundreds,
Yeah, I mean,
probably.
Tech is our largest partner school.
Right.
And by the nature of just Tech having such a widespread 2,500 students, a lot of students live, I mean, Tech students live all over.
That's
but
right.
Obviously, Martindale-Brightwood is one of the rooted
So given what
communities
Gina just
closest
said
to-
about the plan here, they're touching hundreds of students living in the community, as you are, the same students. So what does that mean for what you've seen and what Elevate is doing?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, so Martindale-Brightwood as well is also part of the Promise neighborhood. And so I was at a meeting yesterday over at Edna Martin at KIPP and had some conversations. Literally, it's the youth graduation just piece is kind of that check-in piece. One of the conversations, the points that came up was specifically around mental health. We're talking about what are barriers to graduation? So see the freshman cohort metric and the senior metric, and what contributes to a decline? You have X percent coming in on track as freshmen and a lower percent, whatever that percentage is, and it's ranged the last really since pre-COVID, but obviously COVID was a big marker, and one of the conversation points is mental health. And specifically youth mental health specifically, but just around that, the lack of accessible resources. So even if it is, let's say it is on a great plan, accessible, the challenge of the amount of traumatic core experiences that our students are enduring. This is a violent city. It's a socioeconomically segregated city. And so you have very clear lines, whether it's red line from the 50s or 2025 version of that. You have dynamics where kids feel like, hey, this isn't maybe where I belong. And so you navigate that trauma with how do you help our kids walk through that, and how do they get access to true mental health resources, whether it be professionals that look like them or whether it be professionals that don't look like them but care deeply for them. It ultimately being present. One of the Elevate kind of mantras is we want all of our kids to feel seen, known, heard, loved. It's with them to feel seen, known, heard, and loved. Ultimately, every Elevate kid, we want them to feel that, not just hear it, see it on the wall, but feel it.
Yes.
If you don't feel it, it's not true, So I do think about students that live in these communities, specifically for this conversation, this community, and how important it is that they have access, to mental health. What that means is may not be going to a therapist, maybe just a listening circle, a trusted caring adult, somebody they can lean into, whether it be a coach or whether it be a teacher that serves as that mentor. So, and I love obviously your heart to train and empower folks that may not be in the professional field, but are the presence, for this generation. And so obviously, that is, you can't move forward. We talk about slats in a barrel. The barrel can't fill up beyond the lowest slat. Right. So for a lot of our students, you're talking about incredibly intelligent and witty and hardworking and industrious and high character students. But if the lowest slat is mental health, or they can't get past the last age of traumatic experience, well, no matter how great the dream is or how great the work ethic or character, you're going to get stuck at that point. And so it is an important part of the vision to go past 2030, this 2025 to 2030, I see. But how do we address our kids? How do they feel heard? So we tell them a lot, if you're not at the table, you might be on the menu. So it's an important part to have them at the table so they're not on the menu of everybody being talked about, right? Talked with, not talked to, or not talked about. And so your work is an important work. And obviously the work of KIPP and others that are rebuilding places of schools in this community. This neighborhood used to have a dozen schools in it, so kids didn't have to be bussed out.
Right.
And thanks to KIPP and obviously others with a heart behind that, that are wanting to give, educational choice to students. They can go to school in the neighborhood that they call home. is so important, and obviously your placemaking work makes that possible too. So
It's beautiful. Gina,
Sure.
we love Elevate and what they're doing, especially for kids in the Martindale-Brightwood neighborhood. What would you recommend to our listeners as to who should we be supporting to execute this vision and to make your dreams
And where can they
reality?
find? I was going to ask too. If somebody's watching this podcast, where can they find this? How can they download it, see it? Whether it's a contact information. So
That's good.
who's connected to it? How can they find it? Where are the steps for them to own a piece of it? Because obviously this is the plan, but now you've got to execute the plan. And how can friends and neighbors tap in and be a meaningful part of the team in some capacity?
Okay. So first of all, the plan, a copy of the plan can be found. You actually can just almost Google it now and it pops up.
Mm-hmm.
But this specific plan is the 2025 to 2030 plan.
Right.
A perfect destination online to get this plan is to go to the Indianapolis, the city's Department of Metropolitan Development, because as a plan is certified by the city, that is through the Department of Metropolitan Development. And so all plans that they've certified are on their website. Literally went there last night just to check and make sure that everything was in good shape. So it's there.
Good.
It's on that website. How can you be a part of?
That's
So you
right.
want to keep eyes and ears open. First of all, is there an interaction that you already have in the Martindale-Brightwood area? Because those 10 priorities have tried to cover everything about living, working, playing, worshiping in the Martindale-Brightwood area. So covering some area of that. Is it a faith-based piece that people are coming in and they literally are here for their church service and their spiritual life and renewal there? Okay, well, the churches are part of the plan. Is it coming in like to maybe the health net clinics? And so there's a health wellness component of the plan. And so someone within HealthNet is a part of this. And so also looking for activities like this, and that we will be the leaders, the priority leads in the plan. We're walking around all day long asking individuals if they want to be a part of the plan and how can I help you to get to this meeting. There's a monthly meeting for each priority in the plan. And so we are making those special invitations. November, we will host a town hall meeting to do an update on what's the progress on the goals in the plan. And we held a town hall meeting earlier in the year. And so that's going to happen a couple of different times. And that's a place to be able to just kind of dig in and find out, okay, how can I get engaged? If you know a resident of Martindale-Brightwood, talk to them. If you don't know anything else about Martindale-Brightwood, if you don't know anything else about Martindale-Brightwood, go to Edna Martin Christian Center and say, you know what? I hear that you are a place that can connect me with what's going on around quality of life plan, and they will absolutely do so. And
That's a great tip.
One other place, the neighborhoods associations. You showed the 4 neighborhoods on
That's
your phone.
right. Yep.
There is a neighborhood association in each of those areas. And then there is one neighborhood association that operates as one voice, and that is actually what it's called, that speaks for the 4 neighborhood associations in a collective voice. And that is almost like a neighborhood Congress because those persons are voted into their seats and are coverage for all 4 of the neighborhood associations. So many different avenues to get to the quality of life plan, to learn more about what's in the plan. And if you live in this community and you're hearing anything about it, it doesn't make sense for you not to know what's going on in the quality of life plan that's about the area that you live in.
Well, you've just started on this journey from 2025 to 2030. How's it going so far? What is the major barrier that we need to be mindful of as we attack barriers that might prohibit your vision from being achieved in 2030?
Are you ready for this?
Say
No,
it.
candid. This is an honest conversation, Gina.
Conversation.
That's right.
Resident engagement.
Okay, tell us.
So it's not, to write a quality of life plan, I talked about, we did a 150-year celebration last year. We did a community creators conference. And, I mean, people came from everywhere, hundreds of people at Martin University and part of the conversation. But so many times the capacity to understand that a plan is an ongoing piece, that it's not just this one day that I come and say, hey, I'd like to see this in my neighborhood.
Right. Yeah.
So
No.
there is that. And so, one, we need to up our game on that, building that capacity for residents. But resident engagement will drive this plan to reach the goals that have been set by residents. Again, we're here to support. And when I come in every day, I can stay here for hours to support. I love it. But actually, my house is someplace else. My house is in a whole other community.
Right.
And I don't mind giving all of my gifts and time and talent. I don't mind doing that. But my house is someplace else. And so those that are here need to be a part of the placemaking in this particular
And
area.
what's prohibiting the residents from the engagement you're talking about?
Again, I speak to the capacity of understanding
Got it.
what it takes for this plan to reach all of its goals. And then that brings that back again to those of us that do have that knowledge, that do have that understanding. So now we're at that place of it's no longer just the come see, now it's the go tell.
That's right. So Aaron's story, you're hundreds of kids in Elevate who live in the neighborhood. How can you take what Gina just shared and activate them so that their moms and dads and their neighborhoods can engage to what Gina just said? Is there a way possibly that
of course. I mean, I think obviously schools and students here, I mean, I think, so I think yes, to answer the question, I think more in the challenges and barriers piece of it. I mean, I do think neighboring in many of our communities in Indianapolis, it looks and means different than it did. When you're talking about as we all know, the housing crisis of our city and the eviction crisis of our city has made international news. So what does that tangibly mean? It means that the constant mobility of people from neighborhood to neighborhood. If you're talking about under-supported communities specifically, you know, people that I have kids that they lived here for a year. They went to School 69, let's say, for a year, and then they moved to the west side in Hallville for a year, and they were maybe a year and a half, and they moved over here. And so that sense of neighborhood, I'm not saying it's gone. I'm saying it's challenged or whatever.
Right,
So what's the barrier to building this out? Well, is this really my neighborhood?
Yes.
Or is it going to be my neighborhood?
Right.
To the challenge of kids, to this that dynamic shows its face in a number of ways. And so yes, to answer your question, is an important piece of it. But there is also this piece of do we feel like, how do we help students feel like they're heard and have a place to it? You know, there is a lot of come and see methodology in general, in government and just in placemaking. Come here to this event, you know, come here from X time, whatever. The go and tell, going into neighborhoods, knocking on doors, who are here that's put roots down here is really an important piece of the philosophy. So from an Elevate standpoint, we do this. We do hundreds of house visits a year, literally throughout the whole city. Our staff go into the neighborhoods, knock on doors, meet families, meet aunties. We did 100 2 weeks ago for seniors only. I mean, seniors of high school, not great treyarchs. But I'm saying that to say is I think one of the barriers can be is that if folks aren't willing to just take it to the neighborhoods and empower kids to be a part of that, obviously, too. This is your neighborhood. This is where you're living now, or might live again in the future. And that's okay, you know, right? If it's temporary, but it's temporary now, and how do we build a healthier neighborhood? And so, you know, I think, and obviously Elevate's a small nonprofit. We served about 1,300 kids last year. We're a part of the ecosystem. But I do think, to your point, too, empowering folks that have a small part, a slice of that pie, to where maybe you're serving 100 students. KIPP has a couple hundred students. Go down the list here. How do they feel empowered to be part of that conversation? Because ultimately, and you're passionate about your neighborhood, whether you live here or not, you're passionate about this place. But ultimately, there is a baton that's going to be handed off, you know, whether that's, you know, it's now or later, you know, to this, who are the people that are going to carry that baton forward. And that's an important part. And kids are an important part of that. But obviously, anyone that's, you know, tax-paying citizens that own homes here, you know, right? The neighborhood looks different now than it did. You know, right? Well, if you live here as a neighborhood, this is your plan. Somebody texting you, Instagramming.
Yeah,
or Instagram.
They want Gina's autograph.
I know.
They've never had a great church autograph before.
It's amazing.
Yeah, don't let it go viral, right? Yeah,
your grandkids are texting you.
Right.
Get on your Instagram, Nana.
So, Gina, you're listening to Aaron. What are you thinking as you hear?
So I'm a believer in what he's saying. I think that you know, I feel that way about the community and the work that we do here. We can pay fixers for the community all day long. We can do that. We can make that happen. There is something different that happens in an area when it's mine. There's a whole different care that I give to it, and ownership. And I think, you know, there are some societal ills that would tell a transient community, as you spoke about, that this is not your home.
Mm-hmm.
You're just a temporary here. And so it becomes incumbent on us again to do that outreach piece. I love that when I see churches that do like major outreach. People don't always just walk up into churches. There's all kind of stuff that goes on. But when you take it to them and they see that there's something to come for, then why don't we do neighborhoods like that? Why don't we take it to people and see that there's something here for them and create that idea that this is my neighborhood? And that's one of the things that I am seeing that some of the adults that are working with the youth in that youth engagement piece, they make sure that they bring the state senators and the legislatures to the students. They make sure that they are involved in activities like this. There's students upstairs now that were out of school today to be a part of this, such as we did with those that were a part of the parade, so that they feel that it's theirs. Yes, I have kids. I have grandkids. I have great-grandchildren. Great-grandchildren don't really spend anything. They don't ask for anything. But, with the kids and the grandkids, it's been a lot different when it was my money that was being spent and when now it's the jobs that they work and it's their money being spent. It's just that sense of ownership and you treat things differently.
Right.
Even to all of the violence and all that we talk about, I don't know what the answer to that is. I don't know what the full solution is, but I know somewhere there is a belonging that's missing.
Back to the relationship.
There is an attachment that's missing. Even when we talk about addictions, the opposite of addiction is connection. Addiction is an isolator. And so how do we begin to build those attachments and connections?
Are the local churches more than commuter churches? They're engaged in their neighborhoods in Martindale-Brightwood.
Some are.
What plea would you make to the local churches here in Martindale-Brightwood?
They've heard me.
Oh,
Yeah, some are.
okay.
There is some wonderful, like we have a group of churches right now that are working, they're working a lot around the whole mental health piece and wellness, health and wellness. And so they meet on a regular basis and they host opportunities for people to come in and receive services and information about how to access services. And so there is some of that going on here, and I'm excited about that. There could be some more. Sometimes we just get used to doing what we always did, and we need to be shaken up a little bit. And so, and part of that is that those of us that are working here around the planet, and then we just go visit some of the churches and we shake them up a little bit.
Aaron, of your hundreds of kids in Elevate, how many who live in Martindale-Brightwood are part of a local church here in the community? Would you say? Just take a stab at that. Just what do you?
I would. I'm not from here.
That's right.
So I think I don't know. I will say generally from my experience in neighborhoods in the city and living in the Near East Side and working with kids the last 20 years, I will say it's, from my observation, is not the same today as it was.
It's lower today or higher?
Drastically lower today.
I need to hear that.
Our kids, I think generally, that was, might go with, and I won't pick on Grandma here, but I will say that I'll go with Grandma at Easter, Well, some of the dynamics now is, grandmas are much younger. And moms are still, I would say one of the challenges, moms are still living their childhood a little bit.
Right.
And so you see some of that disconnect of, and not everybody obviously, when you think about this, you see this disconnect of the connection to the local church. I don't think it's a stand on the local church at all. I just think it's the disconnect of, is it relevant? Where do I want to go? Is it 3 songs and a sermon on Sunday morning when I'm out here living a life and my head's on a swivel every time I cross the street because I've got to. And that's not about this neighborhood. That's about this city in general. Okay. And so I do think that's a question. It doesn't mean there's not kids asking. We have kids ask deep life questions. Who am I? Why am I here? My cousin's not here, but I'm still here. What happened? So deep existential questions, incredibly intelligent, brilliant, resilient kids are asking spiritual questions, overt spiritual questions, or just questions of curiosity that some would say the church should be part of that conversation. The Mars Hill type where Paul's walking and sees their idol and says, hey, do you know who this God is? No, tell us. Right. And so kids are asking those questions today like they ever have been. That has not changed. They're just not going to the church, the local church, to ask it like they used to. And so I think that's an opportunity for the church. I also think one of the things too is that churches have a tendency to define their engagement based on services provided in the neighborhood, and that automatically puts a deficit-focused mindset as opposed to an asset-based mindset. This is an asset-based approach. When churches define their engagement with the community based on a deficit you had, i.e. you need services we provide, that means you have a deficit and we're here to fill it. That's just generally shapes a conversation around like, well, come to us when you have a need, and we'll supply your need.
Right.
And I don't care if a white savior complex or a black savior complex, it's a savior complex that gets in the way of actual relationship. I mean, God did not send his son in a sense of an outside savior. He sent him to be an incarnational relationship that leads us through that relationship. So I think churches and the opportunity to do what this is like take an asset-based approach. Our kids are assets. They have strengths. They may speak a different language than us. They may speak it in platforms we don't speak at, digital world. But they're assets nonetheless, not deficits with problems to solve. They're assets with futures to shape. And this is an asset-based approach, and obviously your approach, but sometimes the church doesn't always know how to reset it in the same way. And so it's an opportunity for growth of the church so kids can feel like I'm wanted here because I'm here, like I'm strong here. I'm not just the kid in the back that's a problem.
This is really helpful. Here at Polk Stables, Barato Britt and Edna Martin Christian Center just put Emmanuel Ivy and his whole office here at Polk Stables. They're putting in the furniture as we speak, and they're going to be animating this neighborhood through Polk Stables. KIPP, likewise, just got 2 offices here. So here we have 2 entities that you both have mentioned, and Gina's been focusing a little bit, saying Edna Martin's the place to go, and I know you love KIPP and what they're doing there. We now have the chance here at Polk to support them and bring people through Polk that may never know about Edna Martin, never know about KIPP, and never know about Martindale-Brightwood. And my vision and my work is going to be being a conveyor of relationship into those entities so that we can then see an overflow and see them amplified in their work with you.
That's
So
great.
with that in mind, that's our passion here. That's why we're at Polk Stables doing this. That's why we're at pre-enactment. I mean, Joanna, has been doing pre-enactment on 16th Street. I don't know if you guys were here on roller skates. Remember she had the roller skating out? You didn't mention the roller skating growing up, but
The roller skating rink blew up.
you never got to use it?
No, I never got to use it. I knew it was here,
Oh,
but I never got to use it. Yeah.
okay. Well,
But
we got
it was here.
Yep, we
So
got
we
it.
pre-enacted
We
it
got to
before.
bring it back.
We'll bring it back.
And you mentioned Polk Sanitary and what they did with the cap. We want to
Powerful.
continue and honor that history because other companies wouldn't do that. Polk did it, and that's why
powerful.
in our folklore here we named it folklore because it's with the neighborhood amplifying. We can see it right through the window there. What that business did. We believe in economic flourishing for all. I've heard that Polk did not segregate their black and white employees. Even in the midst of Jim Crow and all that, we want to amplify that. We want to, my own personal vision, but I'm casting this for you. I want Martindale-Brightwood to be part of creating Indianapolis as the joy capital of the world. What do you think about that?
The joy capital.
Hey,
Paul says the fruit of the Spirit is love. But what's the first adjective that describes real love? Joy. Love, joy, peace, patience, etc. What if that permeated our streets, our homes, our schools, from infancy, from conception, all the way to Gratriarch? What if we produced millions, hundreds and thousands of Gratriarchs and patriarchs here in the community full of joy? That's the vision here. And I think after reading this, and I just looked at it again yesterday, that this is a journey to joy.
Absolutely.
So respond to that as we close
Gina.
things out. Final thoughts,
land
Gina.
the plane. Look at this.
Land the
Right.
plane, Gina.
That was pretty good. That was good.
Okay, good. Well, give us a couple minutes, then we're going to say
Here's
goodbye.
what's really cool in this thing because having the history and the faith foundation, first of all, that I'm so grateful for in my life because it is a grounding for me. No
Yes.
matter what has gone on in my life.
Oh, yeah.
It is always a grounding for me.
Aaron and I,
It
too.
is truth.
Jesus Christ.
It is truth.
Yeah.
And there was all of the law, and then Jesus came to fulfill the law, and has brought it down and made it really, really simple. Love the Lord with all your heart, mind, body, and soul, and your neighbor as yourself.
There you go.
Okay, so we get to walk out and we get to do it in all of these different ways. Of the joy of the Lord is my strength, and laughter is like a medicine for the soul, and just all of these things that we get to bring in. So,
Yes.
I see right here in this place that there was just that connection that started out as I have no idea why I'm sitting here and why Joanna asked me to do this, but then there's this threefold cord that has just been formed here, and that is so
Thank you.
in keeping with what the actual Word of God talks about. That threefold cord cannot be easily broken.
Amen.
And when we do this hard work, we get to come together like that, and it strengthens. We're strengthened. We overcome by the testimony of the saints. You know, we are surrounded by a greater cloud of witnesses. Y'all know all these things.
At least she's just say that.
Preach it.
So here it is, right here. That okay, Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. It just happened here, and let's go do it. That's I think sometimes in churches that's where we fall. We get these amazing opportunities, and then we stop and we got to go think about it. Why you got to think about it? Didn't you see it happen in front of you? Didn't you hear what the Word says? What? Don't you see it? I'm going to do a new thing. I'm making pathways in the desert. Wow. Okay, we saw it. Let's go.
Okay, folks, you heard it. Aaron, say your goodbyes. Just respond to that wonderful message.
Amen and goodbye. So that was that. I want to. That was
Okay. It's been great. I can't think of a finer guest to inaugurate this podcast series than Gina Fears. Thank you.
Thank you
for your work, your life, your story, your candor, and the vision you just cast. That will, I believe, activate hundreds of people to serve here in the community, empowered by faith, but given to loving your neighbor as yourself. So thank you so much.
Yep, thank you.
And thank you all for listening. We hope you can join us again for another Greatriarch. We hope to have a few Greatriarchs coming through, and Gina is the finest. So thank you, Gina. Thank you, Aaron, for taking time. Thank you for your ministry here in the community, and would love to see a partnership continue here between the neighborhood and what Elevate's doing as well. So God bless you both, and have a good day, all. Bye-bye.